Welcome back, everybody. Porn for the Heart. We're back. Appreciate you tuning in. Once again, this is Porn for the Heart, brought to you by Men Becoming Men. If you want to send any comments, questions, suggestions, you can certainly send them to us. You can send them to us or visit our Men Becoming Men webpage or Facebook page and message us there as well. But I want to get into another topic today. I think this one is this one's fun. Let's talk about distractions. We'll talk a little bit about distractions and how that applies, especially from the heart or to the heart. Maybe kind of get into it to kind of see what we mean by how this affects our heart or how the heart kind of plays into this. But it's something that near and dear to me, because distractions, won't talk for everybody else, but certainly is something that I used in my life, really to avoid things, to avoid going deep into what I wanted, going deep into maybe issues that were created in my life or whatever it was, but distractions. So what is a distraction? Well, I guess it could be defined, many ways and probably different ways by different people. A distraction is really just anything that keeps you from being focused on something else. As it applied to my life, and may apply to your life as well, it's literally just keeping you from what you want to do. And I try not to, I don't want to use that word too much, or that phrase, what you want to do, because it's probably important that we go into really understanding us, knowing what it is that we want to do. We talked about it a little bit in the first podcast that I did, the introduction actually to Porn for the Heart, and just talking about how we probably all think we're doing what we want to do, right? But this is from the heart, going deep inside to really, really, really find out what we want to do. So I don't want to use the phrase too much until we kind of dive into that a little bit deeper, but that's probably for another podcast at another time. But distractions can be a host of different things. I know I've certainly kind of used all kinds of different things and bounced around really from one to the other at times. At other times kind of combining many of them. Almost doing layer upon layer of distractions. Getting to a point where I lost track of what I was actually trying to distract myself from. Whether it was alcohol, pornography, women, daydreaming, going off on tangents, getting angry. I think there's a whole bunch of different things that we can do to get distracted from our focus and from what we're really looking to do. I think we can we'll take my writing, for example. I like to write, and I have moments of inspiration. And those moments come and go. And what I find is if I just sit down and just start writing and just start letting it flow, it's a lot more effective. As opposed to if I was to sit down and then suddenly I start to get distracted. Maybe I end up on Facebook. Maybe I end up checking emails. Doing just something else besides what I really truly sat down in order to do. And this is a basic example, but that is where the distractions start to occur. And now let's start to get in a little bit deeper than just, wanting to sit down and maybe write a little bit. Now we're talking about our life. Your relationship with your children, your relationship with a loved one, your spouse, your partner. Sometimes do you ever feel like you don't have a good enough connection, where you're not spending enough quality time? You ever had that happen, where you're with somebody a whole bunch, but then you kind of look back and you're like, yeah, I've been with them, but I don't know if there's any quality time. I mean, was I really there? Were they really there? And a lot of times it may be filled with distractions. And I'm not trying to harp on the phone or Facebook or any of those types of things, but we see those little memes out there. Yeah, just how much we're on our phone and how much we're distracted and how much we're not really doing, necessarily what we could be doing to increase the quality time with somebody. We come up with distractions, and those are the distractions that are keeping us from finding what it is that we really want. Okay, so there I use the phrase again. What is it you really want? Well, what is it that we really all want? I mean, what is it that you really want? Let's dig down deep into that, really go into the heart. What is it that we really, really, really want? And there's probably a host of things. But in essence, when it gets down to it, don't we all just kind of want to be happy? Happy, calm, not have so much stress and so much kind of coming at us from all different angles? And it's the distractions. At first, a lot of times we think those distractions are helping us. You know why we think that? Because that's our mind telling us that. That's not you going into your heart. That's your mind telling you, you know what, I'm just, boy, it's been a long, hard week. Let's just go out and get a couple drinks. I'm not talking about what's good or bad. These words haven't even come into play here. I'm not saying you can't go to get a drink. I'm not saying you can't do anything. I'm not saying you shouldn't do this or that. What I am saying, though, is that you should be very aware of what you're doing and why you're doing it. If you want to go have a drink because you like it and you want to enjoy the friendship and the company that you're with, or whatever your reason, just have a reason and make sure that that's it. Because are we sure that really is it? You sure you're not just trying to find a distraction? So what's wrong with the distraction? Well, it literally keeps you from focusing on what it is that you really, I don't want to say supposed to be focusing on, but you had something that you're trying to run from and trying to hide from. And who's trying to run and hide from that? Well, we say you. Well, it is you because it's all you, but it's your mind. Your mind says, no, I don't want to deal with that. And a lot of times it doesn't want to deal with something. It could be for a legitimate reason. It could literally be trying to protect you. There could be something from the past that has really, really, really hurt you. And your mind is like, wow, I know all about that. That was pain. And it probably was. There's no denying it. What needs to happen, though, is you need to actually go into that pain. You need to actually feel that. And you're like, holy crap, I don't want to feel any more pain. No. I'm not talking about necessarily going back into feeling, that same pain at the time, but actually feel into why you had that pain and deal with that and see how you can get rid of it or let it fade away. Running from it doesn't help. Distractions don't help. Because here's the thing about a distraction. It's kind of like patching a hole in the wall. You ever knocked a hole in the wall? I have. I've knocked plenty of holes in walls. Matter of fact, I've used anger as a very good distractor for me. So I have holes in the walls, and then eventually you're like, whoops. And you need to cover all those up. So you get that little thing, from the hardware store. It's a little mesh or wire thing. You put it over the hole. You do some spackling to put that onto the wall. Then you come back, you sand it, and you paint it, blah, blah, blah. You know what? But the hole's still there, All that is just a distractor. The hole's still there. It will always be there. There will always be a hole in that wall. Really, the only way to kind of go about that is to knock the wall out and redo the sheetrock that's there. Now, it's just to bring back the integrity of the wall that's there. So somewhere along the line, you really need to stop trying to come up with distractions and actually deal with the issue. And dealing with the issue, really all that just means is just going into your heart, seeing how that issue is making you feel, accepting it, and letting it go. It's okay to have something bother you. That's not the part that's causing pain within you. The part that's causing you pain is the fact that you actually don't want to look at it and that you're not really dealing with it, because some of this stuff really sucks to deal with. And there's no doubt about that. Those things that really do kind of hurt. It's okay to get help with that too. There's no need to do all this all alone if you don't want to. Or you may find that it's good to do it alone. It's up to you. But getting back to it, it's the distractions are created by the mind. The mind starts to tell you this is what you need to try to avoid this. But once again, you go out, you do that, you do whatever it is that your mind was telling you was going to help, and then lo and behold, next morning or in an hour or 2 hours or whatever it is that you use a distraction, suddenly it's not helping, because there it is again. Whatever that issue was is still right there. So you find other distractions. You start to pile distraction upon distraction. It's kind of like it's like getting angry a little bit, right? You do distraction, and then you do another distraction, you do another distraction. It comes to a certain point where you almost don't even remember what you were initially angry at, because you've just decided to get angry upon angry upon angry, and it's not there. What it was that you actually got angry at the beginning is no longer there. So I'm going to give you a little personal story. I was married with 2 children to a beautiful wife, had a beautiful house, beautiful kids, 2 cars, job, all that kind of good stuff. The American dream, I guess you could call it. But what I didn't have was a strong connection with myself. And look, I'm not talking about, getting all weepy here. I'm not talking about that I wasn't in touch with my emotions, although I was not. But I kind of hesitate to even talk about that just a little bit, because we talk about that and it sounds, society's ideas of that mean, well, you're in touch with your emotions and that means you cry all the time, you do all of this. No, you know what? I just wasn't in touch. No, what it really just meant was I didn't have the ability to feel compassion, feel love. And why was that? Well, stuff that happened in the past. A lot of stuff I didn't even really know was even there. So I had lots and lots of distractions and created lots and lots of distractions to avoid kind of going into that, to avoid dealing with these issues. And my wife tried to help me. She certainly wanted it. My children wanted it, even though they didn't quite necessarily say it out loud. They were very young. But I wasn't able to get past, at that time, what it was that was really going on inside of me, because I never took the time to analyze it, to look at it, but most importantly, to feel into it. Because my mind started getting defensive. My mind started to say, no, that's not right. That's, you're wrong, whatever. But once I started to really connect to my heart, where my heart started to say, whoa, hold on. Are you sure that's what you want? I mean, I know what you want, heart, and the heart's telling me, I know what you want. You want happiness. You want calmness. The mind's like, no, you need to be right. Don't let anybody put you around. No one's going to tell you what to do. So sometimes you get this little, this little thing going on within you, between your heart and your mind. But you think about it. Your mind likes to argue. Gosh, your mind likes a debate. You ever heard about a heart debating? Since when does love debate or love fight? So you start to see, okay, which side do I really kind of want to lean on here? And luckily, eventually, I kind of came to it and said, I think I need to start exploring what's in the heart. But that's scary at times, because it was starting to pop up all kinds of stuff that I really wanted to look into or needed to look into. Because what my life had been up to that point was distraction after distraction after distraction, from strip clubs to naked women to alcohol, to smoking, to just everything from one thing to the other, piling them on top of each other, avoiding that necessity that really I wanted, which was to get rid of all of that. But you get a slippery slope at times. But you know what? It's never too late to go after what you want. It's never too late to say, I'm going to let the heart take over from here. Your mind's going to tell you, no, you can't, because the mind tells you everything that's happened in the past. Oh my gosh, if you admit this, this is going to come down on you. You may lose your job. You may lose your family. You may lose this. And you know what? I did. I didn't lose my job. I quit jobs. I changed jobs. But eventually, yeah, I did lose my wife. We got divorced. But you know what? Even then, went into my heart and said, you know what? This is right, because it's right for her. It's right for the family. It's right for me. And we need to stop thinking that that's the end. It's not the end. And so what if it is? If you find yourself in the process and stop with the distractions, where the clouding of everything that's in front of you now goes away, where you're no longer being dictated by what your mind is saying or thinking, because all it knows is the past. It doesn't know what's going on. It has no clue of the future. Nothing. Your heart, on the other hand, knows what's going on right here, right now, and it knows how you're feeling, and it knows what you want for the betterment of you. And looking at some of those other things as ends, as if something ended, well, how do you know it didn't begin? Well, we don't think it began, because, oh my gosh, woe is me. I did this. Yeah, there's lots of blame and lots of everything else is there. But no, that was a beginning. Look, if I could do it all over again, blah, 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 blah. Okay, stop with that already. I can't, I didn't. But here I am, and darn, I feel great now. And I know the direction that I want to go now. And you know what? My former wife, still in my life. My children, better than ever. And you know why? Because I wake up every day loving where I am, knowing what I'm doing, getting to talk to you guys. I mean, come on. Should I have stayed where I was? Should we have stayed together in the quagmire that I was and that we were? Me still just using distraction after distraction to stop from going into who I was and finding out what I wanted? No way. No more distractions. Now I wake up knowing where I am and who I am and what I want. And that's what I want for all of us. You guys too. So how am I going to do that? How am I going to do that? Well, let's talk about it. We won't necessarily talk about it today, but yeah. First thing, start to identify the distractions in your life. Look, that's all you got to start doing right now. You don't have to do all this digging and diving in and all this other stuff.